This might have been the most boring season of Love is Blind that I have ever watched, but there is still so much to analyze, especially concerning Dave and Lauren's relationship. Hi, my name's Erin. I'm a licensed therapist and I love analyzing all things pop culture. Today, we're going to be looking at the extent of Dave and Lauren's relationship, which I think is, well, there's a few relationships that we could analyze, but I think Dave and Lauren's is the most fascinating out of the entire season. Today, we're going to analyze and look at Dave's self-sabotaging behavior, his complete lack of chemistry with Lauren, their pursuer-pusher dynamics, and most importantly, his relationship with his sister and how that all led to the demise of his relationship with Lauren. I am not one to solely blame one person for the demise of a relationship. I always believe it takes two to tango. However, I do think that the relationship really did not work out 90% because of Dave. Today, I am drinking a cold brew with heavy cream. So cheers, join me, let's get to analyzing. Okay, let's dive in. Let's even start with Dave's self-sabotaging behavior. I think it's pretty obvious that Dave is a textbook self-sabotager. That man, while seemingly self-aware and communicative, works overtime to work himself out of a relationship. Ultimately, his fear of vulnerability pushes him to push Lauren away. Dave really presents himself as somebody who is vulnerable and communicative. For example, his vulnerability in talking about the passing of his mother.
No, my mom passed away.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
That's something that was really impactful and important to him. And I will give credit to Dave in the sense that I do think there's points in time where he was clear in his communication to Lauren and willing to engage some of those conversations. However, the ultimate act of vulnerability is making a commitment to somebody, and that is not something that Dave could do or get there.
I couldn't get over like my own ego, my own pride that she could have seen some other guy before me.
In the realm of self-sabotage, Dave really creates conflict with Lauren where there really isn't any as a form of emotional testing. And this is really common in people who struggle with self-sabotaging behaviors.
No, that's not true or not. Like, I don't know. Everything they've relayed.
They're telling you facts that aren't facts, though.
Anyone who watched the season knows that Dave and Lauren's big conflict for the season was Lauren's friends with benefits situation, which in summation is she had a relationship, not a full relationship, with an individual that she classified as a friends with benefits situation that she had seen up until the week before she went to the pods. Dave found out about this and was extremely conflicted and overwhelmed with this information. While I understand Dave's hesitation and confusion about the situation, he dragged this thing out as long as possible.
I genuinely did not think this was going to blow up in a way that is so ridiculous.
And by doing so, he consistently challenged Lauren's emotional reaction to this. But Lauren proved herself to be a person that reacts consistently. So she was communicative, she was confrontational, and consistent in her reaction each and every time. And I think this really threw Dave for a loop because if she had presented with a different type of response and reaction, it would have been an easy out for him. Like, see, you just can't handle this type of conflict, or this is clearly something we can't get over because of your reaction, or I'm fearful of how you'll react to things in the future based on this interaction. But he didn't have any ammunition for that because Lauren was consistently healthy in her response. When Lauren showed up in a healthy way to his emotional test, it really challenged his idea that he probably thought this would be an easy way out. And I think he was doing the same exact thing in the pods too. When Molly and him are having a conversation regarding the end of their relationship, she asks him to plainly tell her, "Are you ending things?" And he thought he was being clear and said, "I thought I already did."
I think you should own your decision and make it.
No, I know, and I thought I just did.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But in no space or time does he clearly come out and just so plain as day say, "I am moving away from this relationship and I am ending it so that I can step into a different relationship." He does not say that. Instead, the things that he implies or says really implies that he's waiting for Molly to end it. And she calls him out on this, and he's like, oh, no. Like, that's not what I was trying to do. I disagree. And this plays out again when Dave is ending things with Lauren. And I use air quotations because Dave cannot end things. He is not clear. Even Lauren says the same exact thing. So are you ending things? And he's like, I think I've said that. And she's like, no, I'm confused. I just need you to be clear about this. And he's like, I thought I was clear. Same exact thing that just played out with him and Molly. And so she can't get him to say clearly, plain as day, hey, I'm done. I got to take a step away from this relationship. And this whole friends with benefits situation juxtaposes so sharply with Daniel and Taylor's Instagram scandal or Ben and Sarah's TikTok incident. Each of them worked through the situations pretty quickly. I mean, Taylor and Daniel, his response to Taylor was really calm. They looked for the evidence. They couldn't find any, and they moved on from there. And then Ben and Sarah held the evidence that, Ben may not be the greatest guy. She held all of the negative evidence while still choosing to trust him and moving forward. Did it cause tension in their relationships? 100% yes. But did it become the focal point of those relationships throughout the entire season? 100% not. That's very opposite of what happened with Dave and Lauren. And often, self-sabotagers self-sabotage because it feels familiar. The failure of a relationship or chaos feel more familiar than the health of a relationship might. Dave talks a lot in the pods about his past relationships and his unrealistic expectations of these relationships.
Affected me in terms of what a woman should look like. I mean, it was always about looks right away for me.
And if you have somebody that has unstable interpersonal relationships pretty frequently, the common denominator is usually them. And while these past relationships, I'm sure, didn't work out for a number of reasons, it's entirely possible that Dave has set himself up for a rhythm of tension and dysfunction in his relationships, which feels normal to him. So when those things are not present, because that's not who Lauren is, something feels off internally. And so in order to return to a place of normalcy, an individual will try to return to chaos, hence his making out of a mountain of a molehill. Okay, let's talk Dave and Lauren's chemistry, as they have none.
Oh, I know, me too.
I feel like I smell.
It's okay.
Scale from 1 to 10, like how awkward do you think?
Not awkward at all.
Okay. And I feel like that would be alarming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe the new hair.
Chemistry is an important part of any relationship, especially at the start of any relationship. A large part of building chemistry is the physical part of a relationship. And we all know that this is not possible the first part of the TV show because they cannot see each other. So if they were able to, they would be building and deepening a relationship quicker because physical touch releases oxytocin and dopamine and deepens a bond quicker than not being able to be physically engaged with somebody. Obviously, this sets them back one step in their relationship because they don't have the ability to be physical with one another. Dave and Lauren definitely were attracted to each other for emotional reasons, right? They, I think, had this familiarity principle, which is you can be emotionally attracted to people that feel emotionally familiar, even if it's not healthy. And they had a lot of shared values. There was emotional safety. Lauren even points out that Dave is an incredibly validating person. So all of that was present there. I think ultimately Dave just was not attracted to Lauren. And I think he was pretty insecure about this.
I genuinely want to know, like, what's up? Are you guys having sex yet? Like, what's it like? Like, you guys haven't had sex yet?
No.
You guys having sex yet?
Oh my God, you're really getting into it.
I've been asking people, like, have you had sex yet?
And I think there's an important distinction in chemistry versus compatibility. Chemistry is excitement and butterflies and passion, while compatibility is shared values and emotional safety and long-term potential of a relationship to work out. And it's so painful to watch in the show because you can tell they do not have that chemistry, that passion, those butterflies. But they do have compatibility. They share their values, they care about each other's feelings, and they are working towards something long term. And it begs the question, can chemistry be created? If it's not there, can they potentially get there? Which, yes, they could. Chemistry is built through deep conversations that increases emotional intimacy, vulnerability, which increases trust and attraction, new experiences, which releases oxytocin so that we can feel more connected and bonded with the person, and lastly, physical touch or physical attractiveness. That's all great because those other things, the deep conversations, the vulnerability, the new experiences together, those were all there. But there's missing one big component, which is the physical attraction. So even though chemistry can be cultivated, it ultimately doesn't matter if the physical attraction isn't there. I just think ultimately that there were multiple points where Dave was just trying to get out of the relationship in some way, shape, or form, ultimately because he wasn't physically attracted to Lauren, or they just didn't have chemistry. The sister. Of course, I'm going to talk about Dave's ever-present yet entirely elusive sister.
Have an older sister. I mean, my sister.
Yeah.
My sister right now. AKA my sister. Especially like my sister.
And I do not know what it was about this season, but Sisters was the name of the game.
Monica said, you know, my sister's my best friend. And I'm like, awesome. My sisters are my best friends.
In my opinion, Dave's sister was most likely a parentified child, which is a very common phenomenon in psychology. Parentification occurs when a child takes on a role that is not their own. So they take on the role of a caretaker or they take on the role of parenting themselves. I think this can be evidenced by the passing of Dave's mom and his obsession with appeasing his sister and gaining her approval, which to me indicates that most likely his sister has become parentified and taken on the role of his mother.
Okay.
She is super cool, super fun to be around.
Yeah.
But like also like very motherly.
Oftentimes, one sibling becomes the therapist for the family or the emotional crutch for the family, helping them process family stress, or they feel like they're responsible for their siblings' happiness or even responsible for helping the family mediate conflicts. If this is true and Dave's sister feels responsible for Dave's happiness, it makes sense why she had so much pushback on him doing this show and why he had so much concern for her opinion.
Just like really important to me that she approves of like what I do.
Caring about your siblings and your families, for that matter's thoughts and opinions, that's totally normal and healthy. However, when you're allowing them to dictate and control so many of your decisions, that's when emotional boundaries are being crossed.
Not that like she controls my life, but she was like very emotional and she was like, okay, you can go like do the experiment.
And the problem with parentified children, there are a lot of them, but especially the problem when one sibling seeks out a romantic partner is it creates this family loyalty in adulthood. And this can often result in romantic partners feeling like they are competing with a sibling for their partner's emotional attention. And while this wasn't entirely present yet because Lauren and Dave were not together long enough, I could completely see this playing out in the future. Oftentimes, it's hard for individuals to set boundaries in adulthood with their families because they feel indebted to that sibling who is parentified. And I wonder if that's what's going on with Dave here. I wonder if on some level subconsciously he feels like he owes his sister for how much she's done for him. And that's definitely impacting his relationship if that's the case. And if Dave's sister really has replaced the role of his mom, then it makes sense that he cares about her approval the most, which makes it so difficult for him to confront her or push back against his sister. And this is evidenced when Lauren is continually pushing for a confrontational conversation with his sister, even one off camera. And Dave is consistently like, no, can't do it. She's not interested. But it's pretty clear that he's not pushing for it either and doesn't want to confront his sister in a true manner. also present in Dave and Lauren's relationship is the pursuer-distancer dynamic. This is a classic play out in relationships everywhere. You can see this in movies, TV shows, and I'm sure in your day-to-day life. The pursuer-distancer relationship plays out where one partner, the pursuer, seeks emotional closeness while the other, the distancer, withdraws, creating this cycle of one pursuing, and the more that one pursues, the more the other withdraws, which increases the other to pursue more, hence the cycle. There are multiple play-by-play examples of this dynamic in Lauren and Dave's relationship. Lauren is the pursuer. Lauren asks Dave to have difficult conversations multiple times. She is always willing to have those conversations. She asks Dave to stay the night after they've had a difficult conversation, and she is constantly pushing for them to engage in these things.
Rather us not go our separate ways tonight.
Okay.
Dave is very resistant and is the withdrawer.
I mean, see, that's where I would, because I don't feel comfortable right now being here.
He does not want to stay the night after they have the fight. In fact, he goes out to the bar with his friends. He is resistant and ends the conversations early, and he continually asks Lauren the same questions over and over again that she has already answered. This dynamic of pursue and withdraw is really common in anxious avoidant attachment styles. However, I actually would not classify Lauren as having an anxious attachment style, which is something I would not say very often for reality TV stars. Lauren presents a secure attachment through her open communication style, her ability to set and respect boundaries. She is intentional in her communication and does not name call or get emotionally dysregulated. And that is the biggest thing, is that she has consistent emotional regulation even in the midst of conflict. It is more evident to me that Dave has a avoidant attachment style. And this is evidenced because even though he's willing to show his emotions, his feelings, and voice validations, attachment styles are shown in the midst of conflict. And every time there was conflict, Dave withdrew. It's pretty obvious that in the midst of all the conflict, Dave was either trying to run away from it or get Lauren to remove herself from the relationship so that he did not have to be the bad guy. The biggest part of an avoidant attachment style is the distrust one has in their partner. And some of this makes sense. He really did just meet Lauren. However, Lauren is fully willing to lay all her cards on the table. She's always willing to talk about the situation, and she is more than willing to have confrontation with his friends and family about the situation. She, at every turn, has offered him no reason to not trust her, and yet he point blank blindly trusts his friends and his family. And ultimately, this dynamic is exhausting. One partner is usually putting in more effort to reconcile the relationship than the other. And if this was Dave's response to a minimal conflict in their marriage, or relationship, I should say, imagine what his response would be to an actual deep conflict. Lauren is far better off with someone who is willing to meet her in the middle of her pursuit of reconciliation. While I could sit here for an hour and analyze to death their entire relationship, that I think is a good summarization of the things that I think went wrong that ultimately led to the end of their relationship. And ultimately, I think they could have worked out in another world, but I'm honestly glad they didn't. I think Dave was fighting a pattern that's been a part of his life for the entire season. And I hope getting to actually see that, visually watch it all play back, gave him pause and helped him to self-reflect that this is a pattern that he needs to change, or else he is going to continually see the end of relationships and not be able to make commitment. I'm not going to lie, I did think this season was so boring. I do still find it so fascinating to analyze. I mean, look how much was there despite the boringness of this season. I really hope producers can see the critiques of the season and maybe change it around for the upcoming Denver season. But, not every show is going to have a perfect record in their seasons, so I'll give them a pass this time, I guess. But I want to know, would you ever go on this show if you had the opportunity to? And if not this show, if you had to pick any reality dating show to go on, what show would you go on? Leave a comment. I love doing this. I love analyzing all things pop culture. And if you enjoy this, then you would really love my channel. I can't wait to keep growing, and I really appreciate any support you have, whether it's a like, comment, subscribe, whatever it is. I'm so appreciative. Thank you all for joining me, and I will see you all soon.